and jacked up. Making stuff and jacked up.
So much.
Making stuff and jacked up. Making stuff and jacked up.
Let it go. You say get out of the way.
Jacked up.
Get it waiting. Stand.
So much.
Someone's killing these people, trust me.
The time's here now.
You're listening to Meadows and Makers podcast.
With Jack Dub and making stuff. Peace.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another week of the Meadows and Makers podcast, coming back at you after the little hiatus I had, a day break. Last week I was at the Anarchadelphia conference in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and so I wasn't able to get a setup going to bring you guys a show during that time, so I'm back at it this week. It's good to see all you guys. And so let me give a shout out to the audience here. We got Peachy Mod, we got Ron Dunn, we got Steam Qua, we got Swoop. Thank you guys for joining this morning. And so I'm just going to get a few of our upfront things out of the way here. If you guys don't know who I am, if you're out there listening, I'm Greg, also known as Making Stuff on Steemit. And this show is all about living a more resilient lifestyle in these modern times and trying to use some of our current technology to help increase our abundance and bringing on people that are in those similar alignments, doing homesteading and backyard innovations and things like that. So that's the kind of show that I bring you guys and try to be a little, try to inspire you to move toward that direction if you so desire. And so just a couple things up front that I need to clear is that the views and opinions that are expressed on this show are my own and those of my guests, and then they do not reflect on MSP Waves and the wonderful people that are here running this show. And so if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything like that, please send them my way, either in a comment on the show or you can DM me here in Discord, and you let me know your thoughts. And I am constantly working to improve the show and bring a new show to you guys every week. So I love to hear your feedback and all that kind of stuff. So another thing that I like to do, I have a show mantra that I tell everybody for the show, and that is I will be an inextinguishable light of possibilities for myself and others, and that is something I hold in my heart, and I just try to spread around to all you lovely people. So that's something for you guys. And then, so this week I am kicking up after the Anarchadelphia conference. I just wanted to share a little bit that I took away from the Anarchadelphia conference that I believe would be helpful to you all out there. I took 3 workshops at the conference, and each one was really eye-opening for me. They covered health and how to get more active in your community and spreading the ideas of voluntarism and freedom in your local community, and also the aspects of teaching natural law. And so some people were asking what natural law was in the beginning of the show, and I'm gonna start to be covering some of the teachings of natural law in each show and going over little aspects of it. And so looking for participation there. There's some prizes for people that participate in the discussion there. So so first off, I wanted to invite anybody that's hanging out for the show today. I started my own Discord server, and it's called the Tinker Tribe. And so I'm going to be sharing a lot more resources along these lines, and the resources of self-reliance and taking those things into your own hands. I'm going to be sharing a lot more of those resources and chatting, in that personal server of mine. So if anybody's interested in these topics, you're free to join that server and come and hang out and participate in that kind of conversation. So, yeah, I have a couple of photos that I'll share with you guys up front. I got to meet some of the guys that I've been following for a long while. That's me and Mark Passio right there. After his teaching natural law workshop, I got to meet him at the conference and get to hang out with him. Another guy that I think is really cool for everybody to go check out is a guy named Clive DeCarl. And I took his workshop, which covered a lot of alternative healing technologies and things like that. And so if nobody is familiar with him, I highly recommend go check out Clive DeCarl's work and take health back into your own hands. He had such a wealth of knowledge on all kinds of health topics, and a lot of them are related to diet and supplementation. So I just dropped the link in there for him right down there. And then another guy that I got to meet was, and I got to shake his hand and talk to him for quite a while, is Derek Bros. And a lot of what I talk about on this show is a lot of the ideas that Derek Bros talks about in, how to create local communities and markets that are outside of the traditional markets and things like that. And was able to link up with him, and hopefully I'll be able to get him on the podcast at some point. And, that's great. Yeah. Rondon's going to get Derek Bros on Clown World soon. So that's awesome too. Yeah, I was gonna sit down and have an interview with him, and our workshop with him went a little late, and so I wasn't able to get him a recording of that of the podcast. But I'm gonna try to link up with him later. So that's awesome if you were able to line him up for your show, Rondon. That's great, man. We'll also try to be getting him on my show, and so maybe we can maybe we can mention him. But yeah, I'll try to link up and make that happen too. And then, like I said, I got to meet Mark Passio, and this is his information for his website, What on Earth is Happening, where he talks about the science of natural law and things like that. So that's something that I want to cover with you guys here on the show a little bit up front, is to talk a little bit about natural law in the show, and I think it goes along with everything that I do, because it's the foundation for living more in line with creating an abundance in society and community. So for everybody out there, if the thing that I wanted to start off with was, and one of the first things of understanding natural law is that we need to understand that there is information and knowledge that is needed for health and happiness and peace and freedom in the world. And so for that to exist, if those requirements and knowledge are not obtained, then those conditions cannot manifest just automatically in the world. And so one of the first things to understand is that there is information that is occulted. Now, does anybody out there know what the word occult means? Is anybody familiar with that word? Occult. If you are, type it into the chat. If anybody may be familiar with that. All right, cool. I see Swoop. That's correct. The word occult is derived from the Latin adjective occultus, which means hidden, and it comes from the Latin verb occultare, which is to hide, to conceal or keep secret. And so this is one of the first steps of understanding our situation on the earth right now, and it is until we can realize that there is information that is hidden, then there's no way to gain an understanding of the world to take the appropriate actions to manifest a more abundant future. And so just a little bit to explain that occult knowledge that constitutes both of the knowledge of human consciousness and how it operates, and the knowledge of natural law, the unseen universal spiritual laws which govern the consequences of human behavior. And so if we remain ignorant of these things, I like to say that this is much like the rule set that has been built into this reality that defines for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, if that makes sense. So there we go. That's what I want to start off with this week, and just to get some of that information out there. And I'm going to be bringing little bits of this information every show into the future. And so thank you, Swoop. Great job with the answer there. And so we're going to move forward and get into a conversation with Solo Miner. Now, I had Solo Miner on a while back, and he is into a lot of different things, and he is a cryptocurrency miner and a content creator, full-time content creator, and hanging out there over in Georgia. And so today we're gonna get to chat with him some more and kind of get into some different topics about kind of along what he's got going on, and we'll have a good little conversation. So without further ado, let me bring on Solo Miner. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, making stuff. Thank you for having me on once again on your Meadows and Makers show.
You bet, brother. Yeah, it's really good. I'm really happy to have you on and get to talk with you some more. So, yeah, the last time we talked, that we just got to get to know you a little better and all the projects that you have working on, and maybe you want to give everybody a little update on what you're up to now, and just how you've been doing, and some of the recent projects that you're working on.
Yeah. Well, I've been keeping busy between the resources on networks that I keep up, like my One Love DTube server that I upload my videos to, and keeping up my library server that runs a dApp called Speech, and I can create links to different pictures I post, and it's all backed up on the blockchain, which is super cool, I think.
Yeah.
But between just keeping those servers up, just getting monitoring software on there, and setting up cron jobs so they restart and not eat up all the memory and crash. Been keeping busy on the networks, but I've also been outside a lot, working out during the summer, planting a lot of bulbs, trying to keep down the erosion that I have occurring on my property with heavy rains. It's washing away the soil and causing a lot of problems for sprinklers and drainage tubes buried underground. So I've been busy getting tons of wood chips delivered by getting like different tree trimmers involved, having them just dump it in front of my property, and adding plants that are going to have a strong root structure and kind of hold all that in there. So been real busy outside, just trying to get a control on the Georgia weather.
Oh, cool, man. Well, you guys are getting some rain. It's been a total drought in Alabama. We haven't had rain for a while now.
Well, same here, actually. So since I planted everything about 60 to 70 days ago, we've had probably 2 days of rain. So I'm having to go out and water everything for like 2 hours every other day because it's been like 95 degrees. And the new plants are going to die if I don't take care of them during these days. So, yeah, it just usually rains, and when it rains, it pours. So it's one of those things where I have to have something blocking the rain from hitting the soil because it just breaks it up and washes it away when it does rain. And it's strange, it hasn't rained very much in the last few months.
Yeah. I saw that you were working on a little bit of you have a setup that collects your condensation water off of your air conditioner, right? And I saw that you did a little bit more work on that recently.
Yeah, sure did. It's all gravity fed once it's in the barrels. I don't have my barrels up on a stand like you do. I really do need to build like a stand, so I have a little bit of gravity to really give me some good flow out of there. But since I don't, I just doubled up my connections, and now I have 2 barrels feeding into like a Y connector, and then I can have a pretty good flow coming off of this little tube. That's I think it's a 1-inch tube, where usually garden hoses are like 5/8 or a lot smaller than this 1-inch farm tube that you have for high flow situations. And now I can fill up my barrels in like seconds instead of it took like a minute or two for getting my my little pails filled up.
Oh, okay, cool. Great. So you use that to water all your plants that are on the property with?
Yeah, it doesn't last as long as I was hoping. It's amazing how much water you need to water just a bunch of plants in the ground. So I've been running out, but I just use the city water at that point, and we're not under any restrictions. So I want to use the barrel as much as I can, but I tend to run out of water every time I water during the day. I'm probably going to fill those pails up at least 10 times. And there's only so much water in the 100-gallon system.
Cool. Yeah, how are all your plants doing? I know mine are looking really sad right now. Other than what I have in my aquaponics system. The aquaponics system's doing well, but all my plants are really starving for some water right now.
Yeah, I'm keeping them alive by giving them water every few days. I think there'd be a lot of plants dying off right now, and I think it's even causing an early fall in the area I live in. I noticed a lot of the big trees are dropping their leaves already, and they don't usually drop leaves until a few months from now, so it's bad. I want rain. We were joking, it's supposed to rain every week, not every month.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's becoming an issue, but yeah. So yeah, we talked a little bit before the show today, and some of the interesting stuff that you got going on, and I know that that we kind of we share a lot of interests together, and we're talking about you coming over to the property to maybe do a little hunting and camping out here. And,
yeah. Once it cools down, I'm kind of waiting until we have a few weeks where it's in the 60s at night, in the 50s, not like the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man, it's hot, and I'll tell you another thing about it. It's real hot too.
Yeah, well, that's why I kind of want to wait till the seasons are a little better. So I don't want to be sleeping in your air-conditioned survival trailer with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it actually was pretty cool today. This morning I went out to the farmer's market. We went out at about 8, and it was about 58 degrees, and we were quite surprised it was that chilly this morning.
Yeah, it's been pretty. It's been pretty nice the past few nights. It's not been too bad. It's I just had a fan running the past couple nights, and it wasn't that bad. So I think it's probably from that hurricane that came through, and it kind of sucked out a lot of the moisture. If nobody's been to the southern United States, it gets real humid. It's hot and humid, and so. But it has been a welcome to have it be hot but dry.
Yeah, you could actually run a swamp cooler in a hot and dry environment, but a hot humid, you have to use expensive air conditioners to cool yourself down.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So one of the things that we were talking about was, I have to build something for the winter time, and I want to start hosting people at the property. And so I'm going to be working on a bathhouse, and we're talking about ways to heat. And I know you're a cryptocurrency miner, and so one of the suggestions you gave me was to just mine and use that to help supplement the heat for the area. And you do that, right?
Yeah, I have about 1,000 square feet that I occupy, and it can stay relatively comfortable as long as the outside temperature doesn't get below 20 or 15 degrees Fahrenheit. And I do this through having well-insulated windows and running probably 3 or 4 computers with various video cards and different CPUs. And I just look for proof-of-work algorithms. Script is great because it makes a lot of heat, but other algorithms don't make a lot of heat. So you'll learn certain coins that you could mine. Used to be like with Dash, with X11, it switches algorithms every few seconds, so you never get like a steady heat source. It's always kind of cooling down.
Oh.
But things like Script and SHA, well, back in the day when you could mine with GPUs and not ASICs now, but back in the day, those would get really warm, and I'd be pumping out a few thousand watts of mining and keeping the house quite warm.
Wow. So what is the do you know your numbers on power usage on your total mining equipment? Do you know what you spend or what your maybe daily power consumption is?
It's I'm using at least 1,000 to 1,500 watts between all the computers. Some
Okay.
computers are really powerful because they might have 2 GPUs in there, and they might be 2 really good GPUs that each use a few hundred watts. But other systems might be a Xenon server, and I'm looking for a CPU only coin so I can run those Xenon servers with all their cores really fast on it. So it just
Okay.
kind of depends on what I'm looking to mine, and that really changes every winter. It has always changed different coins. It seems by the time next winter comes around, ASICs have moved on to that coin, and I can't touch that stuff with my CPU and GPU. But there are coins out there that are ASIC resistant, and you can still mine them.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah. Are there any examples that you have of those ASIC resistant miner
Yeah.
cryptos?
Yeah, Monero, you can mine that. At last I checked, they are continuously forking their code to be ASIC resistant. They had a Monero heavy algorithm for a while, and I think they forked again recently. And then you can always do mining pools where they switch between the most profitable coin. They're called multi-pools, and
Okay.
those things can mine 10, 20 different coins, and it all kind of changes at whatever's most profitable at the time. And the cool thing is they just pay you in Bitcoin usually, so you don't really have to worry about getting some weird altcoin with like $10 of volume in the day on exchange and never getting your money out of it. Like they pay you in Bitcoin to mine altcoins, which is pretty interesting.
Okay,
But,
so you just use your hash power to add to the pool?
Yeah, I'll take a multi-pool and I'll set it up on all my computers, and it just points to one pool address, and then they decide what the best coin to mine at the time, and they take a percent or two from the cut, which doesn't really hurt me that bad, and then it's kind of just up to my costs for using my power from the city.
Okay, cool. So do you have a multi-pools that you like to use?
Not off the top of my head. That would have been something from last year, and I don't recall what I used from last year. And everything else I've used in the past, they've all changed. Like all the mining pools that I deal with Bitcoin and Litecoin, I'm sure have died or been bought over.
Yeah.
Even mining pools called like 50 BTC, because the block reward used to be 50 Bitcoin for a block. That used to be my mining pool, but 50 BTC is no longer relevant because we're way past that point now.
Right.
So there's like slush pool, and it really depends on what you're looking to mine. But the multi-pool is not the top of my head. I don't have a recommendation for any. I'd say get on Bitcoin Talk and just see what other people are using.
Okay, so is that do you have a link for that you could drop down in the chat, or if you just search Bitcoin Talk, you'll find it?
Yeah. Bitcoin Talk is a great forum where people list different resources and different altcoins. They're called announcement threads. So like a developer will create a thread on Bitcoin Talk, and then he'll list any kind of updates or wallet changes. And it's a great way to keep up on a service even. So like if a pool, they could have a thread. So it's a great way to keep up if they're still alive or if users are having issues. I've been on Bitcoin Talk since like 2013. I love that place.
Okay, great. Yeah. So this is something I really want to get into because like we were talking about previous on the show is that for one thing I need a heating solution, and then I'm producing solar power, so and then I'm this week I'm looking into getting one of those unlimited data cards with a little Wi-Fi that I could hook up so I could have true unlimited no data cap internet thing and on the property. So yeah, it's something I'd like to get into, is doing some crypto mining.
Yeah. I just searched on Google for a Bitcoin Talk multi-pool, and they're definitely alive and kicking. There's SHA-256, X11, all different kinds of pools that specialize to certain coins and certain algorithms, and then other that will switch between whatever you put in your config file.
Okay.
But I don't have an exact one to give you. I'd hate to give you just some multi-pool and ends up they suck. So I'd rather just say if you're looking for a multi-tool pool, looking on Bitcoin Talk's a pretty good way to find those pools.
Yeah, do your own research. Go participate in that forum and ask questions and stuff.
Yeah, it's a great place where when you register, you can't post right away. You have to have a certain amount of on-forum time where you're reading posts. And it really helps to answer questions where you don't just create like the common noob questions that everyone wants to know. You do your research, and then you're allowed to post after a while. So I like their system.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I'll look into that for sure. Yeah, so one of the things that the couple of things that you do here on Steemit to help make your stuff more decentralized is that you're running a couple of things that you mentioned when we first started chatting. You're doing a One Love DTube server, which is you're running your own IPFS node, I believe.
Yeah, it's a IPFS node, which is an interplanetary file system. And have you read the history of that making stuff? Why they came up with IPFS and stuff?
I just started to look into it a little bit today. Was it based on kind of a little bit off of BitTorrent, a little bit, something like that?
Oh yeah. They use a lot of things from the BitTorrent protocol, and the plan was to use it when we have communication on Mars and other planets. That's where the interplanetary comes from. So it was designed originally for very wide area networks where you're going across planets. You're not in the same, circuit anymore, so to say, like you would with the World Wide Web. And luckily, you could still use it, on Earth, and you can just use it on a more simple scale. And it's worked very well as a decentralized video library where you can store videos on different servers, and then you can have them sync between a group of servers for redundancy. And One Love took advantage of that, and they wrote some software where you can now log into this website. that they wrote, and you just enter some things like your capture image, and you put your link for your video, and you write your description and your tags, and you hit submit, and it uploads it to my server. And then on their side on Discord, there's a bot that then replicates that video across all of the other community members involved. So it's a really cool idea.
Yeah. So that's something that I worked with Graylin on setting up myself, but I've kind of been lacking on keeping my computer up and connected to the internet, and so I haven't been backing up as all those files. But it was pretty cool. He walked me through the steps of I had an older computer, and I was able to load Ubuntu onto it and be able to run that and back up my files in their community IPFS node system. So
Nice. So you did that with a dynamic IP address? Because usually you need a static IP to usually do a server's thing.
yeah, it's running on a static IP at my
Oh,
at my folks' house. So
There you go. Because usually people get dynamic and they have to use like Dyn DNS or some other third party to bridge the gap there. But that's cool. It's good you got a static.
yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's definitely techie, but it's the guys at One Love YouTube offer it as a service. So if you're not that techie, you can also use their service if you want to keep your videos more decentralized instead of. I know DTube shifted over to. You could put your YouTube link in, but you're still. I believe it's only hosted through YouTube, so your file is not really decentralized, really, if you're using just the YouTube upload thing.
Right. It's just kind of redirecting it.
Yeah. So yeah, I know. I remember talking to Graylin, and I know that One Love YouTube may be working on their own project to maybe help either provide some kind of service for decentralizing videos or something like that. I know he's working on it, but to be truly decentralized, I think you have to run one of those IPFS nodes, if I'm correct.
Yeah, and by having your own node, you can then control your content. And that's what I like the most versus like YouTube and even DTube. I'm in control of my video. I have the gateway. If they take me down from DTube, that's fine, but the video is still on my server and I can still share it. And I found that really empowering. But there's other people on the One Love DTube as well. TechCoder X has been a huge help to me. So many times when I've had like the weird error messages, or even today, I tried to upload a video that was too big for my software on my service, and it threw an error, and it gave me a gray screen instead of an actual DTube video. So I got with TechCoder, and right away he helped me figure out what the problem was. So I love their support. They're so friendly, and I mean, when I say friendly, you have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, they won't be much help to you. But if you bring the facts and the details, they'll help you. They'll help you get set up and get going.
Yeah, really great guys over there. Yeah, I've talked to TechCoder a little bit, but probably not as much as Graylin. And yeah, they're really great over there. They're really great guys. I think another guy he has over there is Vault Tech, which is he's created some really cool stuff too.
Yeah, Vault Tech I think also works with DTube. A lot of them have crossover where they're trying to work with the people over on the DTube side, as they are kind of adapt running with the DTube network in lockstep with their services.
Yep. So yeah, if anybody is looking to get some help with their backing up their videos, One Love DTube's great resource, and really got really great guys over there doing that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate all their help. Grayland's been a huge help to me. Just more recently, I've been talking to TechCoder X, but Grayland has spent hours over Discord helping me in the past, so he's a huge help too. Just don't want to understate that.
Yep, really great. So another thing that you do and that you mentioned was was library, and so. Library is its own cryptocurrency that is they've created a network that is tied to information, I guess, and so you're hosting all your image files on library as well for Steemit, huh?
Yes. So I've been uploading all of my pictures that I create to my own server, just like I did with the One Love DTube server. I have a whole nother virtual private server just for this app that's called Speech. It's spee.ch. And they're on GitHub, so if you just download their software, you can run an instance as well. The only cost is it does take library credits to post to the blockchain. So like every time you post, you have to have a hot wallet living on that full node, and it's going to consume like a few credits, which is a few cents. I mean, it's not much, but it still does require tokens. But the cool thing about this is if you go on their Discord and just say hi and kind of interact, they will rain library tokens down on you to fuel your server.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so as much as you need to have tokens, they will usually supply you with it if you write a nice article about them or you say hi to hang out in their Discord for a bit. And then those tokens last you for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of pictures that you upload. And it all depends on how long your file name is. If your file name is like 30 characters, it takes up more bytes. And the more bytes you use, the more coins you need for that mining transaction on their blockchain. So if you do really, really short file names, you can pay very little. And it's just a little way I found to really save my tokens that I'm using to post on their blockchain.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. Neat.
Yeah, I can be on my server and use like PM2, which displays the logs. And as I'm uploading, it says like use this much library credits for this hash. And it's so cool seeing an actual like blockchain server working as I'm uploading pictures. It's so fulfilling to me on my technical interests.
Yeah. So that I guess standard on Steemit, right? Every time you upload a photo, that is getting backed up through some kind of, I think it was Amazon Web Services servers at one point, but maybe somewhere else now. And so when you do this, then you're like you said, you're taking it into your own hands to keep your data backed up, right?
Yeah, and I'm also taking a load off of the Steemit company that's paying for the hosting on AWS. A while back, Steam came out and said, hey, we're really having trouble staying afloat here. We're spending this much on servers, and hey, just wanted the community to know. And I was like, hey, I can do something about this. I can stop dragging things into their browser and uploading pictures to their AWS. I can host my own pictures. And I looked at like Photo Bucket and other types of places where you can post an image and get a URL. And a lot of them, they charge, and they'll cap your bandwidth once you've had like 3 or 4 or 10 people look at your picture. And I mean, Steam, I could have one person look at it, or I could have 250. It really depends on how well that post does.
Okay.
So by just hosting it myself through the Speech app, it doesn't matter. As long as my servers can take it, they'll see the picture. And that way, like you said, I have ownership of the image. I'm not posting it to someone else and it says in the EULA that they own it because you put it on their servers, like Facebook and many others.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so wow, that's really cool for anybody that wants to take that personal responsibility and to start using some of these tools that are out there. So you said that Speech it's a Speech app, and you can find it on GitHub.
Yeah. If you just search like Speech, spee.ch.
Okay.
Like, no, I messed that up on chat. Let me fix that. But if you write it out like this and then write GitHub, there's a repository where there's a release. If you just follow the server commands, you can get one spun up for yourself too. And if you have issues, you can go on the library Discord, and they have a Speech channel. And you'll get help within a day or two. It's not always instant, but someone will usually get in touch with you and help you out.
Okay.
Yeah, so they got the support. I love this. when I started in crypto, there was no dApps. There was no applications. There was just the Bitcoin client, Litecoin, a couple other coins. But we have so many dApps now that this is why Bitcoin's not worth $10 anymore. That's why altcoins are worth way more when we started. We have all these dApps and an ecosystem that's literally working now. And I love it. I want to be a part of it. So I've made these servers to become a statistic in those.
Yeah. So maybe, what would you say if somebody wanted to get started to host their own files? Like, what kind of hardware, what kind of equipment would they need to go invest in to get started? Maybe with just a real simple setup.
They would either need a Raspberry Pi and a static IP address. That all depends on your internet provider. If you do not have a static IP address, you would want to get a virtual private server. And these are offered by hundreds of different companies. Some of the most common are OVH, Scaleway, DigitalOcean. And these servers, you pay a monthly cost for them, and it's usually anywhere from a few dollars to, depending on what your needs, a few $100s. I can run my speech server on about a $5 a month server. And my One Love DTube server, it needs a slightly more powerful system as I have to encode my videos when I upload them. So that runs on about a $10 a month server. And it's not a problem for me because as I cash out Steam, these are all business expenses. And I don't mind running these for the business of blogging. So the costs are really not a problem if they're small. And they just give my redundancy to the things I host. So sometimes the DTube links, when people click on DTube, the video doesn't play for whatever reason. And I can always tell them to, like, hey, click on this link I provide below. It goes directly into the gateway of my server. It bypasses DTube's website issues at the time. And it always plays for them unless my server is having an issue at the time.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. So that's another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is that so you set yourself up as a business to run your Steemit blog, and that's a really neat way of doing this. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about that, and then so everything that you're doing to keep all your data and everything like that, you can wrap it up into your business and as expenses, right?
Yeah. I've been working to my CPA for a few years. This is not my first year in crypto. I've been doing crypto with actual money since like 2014. So my first CPA, he looked at me like a deer in headlights and said, I have no idea what Bitcoin is or what you do with this. And he said, I think it's legal, but I don't know what to do with it. So in the next few years, I found another CPA, and luckily he had other clients, people that dealt with Ethereum in the early days, like in 2015, 2016. So by the time I started buying and selling, luckily my CPA was familiar with it. And it's just called FIFO, first in, first out. So whatever you buy at the time, you just write down the price that you buy it at, the amount you buy, and then when you sell, you just figure out how much you've gained. And then you keep track of that for the CPA and give that to him at the tax season. And either you do short-term or long-term. Short-term capital gains in America, you have to pay 50% of your earnings, which means if you if you buy an altcoin or a Bitcoin or any asset and hold it less than 365 days, you have to pay 50% of your earnings to the government. If you hold it longer, long-term gains, that 1 year, 1 day, you pay like 25%.
So if you keep everything in cryptos though, and you're not ever cashing out for fiat, what are the rules on that you figured out?
Crypto to crypto, if you make massive gains from one coin to another, you need to be aware because that does count toward your gains. But for the most part, I just try to keep it in one coin because it can get really confusing. Like if you buy this altcoin and make this much and you sell it for another, but then make this much, but then you lose some of it, and it gets really complicated. So I just say buy a coin, write it what you pay into dollars for it at the time, and then when you sell it, you write down what you paid in the dollars for that. And like you said, once you go back to dollars is when you got to pay the tax.
Yeah.
So you can move Steam to Ethereum and Monero and whatever coin BitConnect, and you can try all those things out. And as long as you don't cash out, you're not really susceptible to paying taxes. But you need to be aware of those gains, because when you do cash out, they want to know where all those earnings came from.
Whoa on the BitConnect.
Okay. Hey, ho. Hey.
Yeah. That was hold up on that BitConnect there.
I remember watching that coin rise up on CoinMarketCap, and I read about it for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, nope, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot stick. And
Yeah.
I was amazed it got as far as it did.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. Don't buy BitConnect. I think they're back, so yeah, don't touch them. Don't touch BitConnect.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, I heard they might be relaunching, but there's a lot of interesting coins that keep coming back, like BitConnect, and then Proof of Weak Hands, then it morphed into like the POH network, and it's interesting how these people keep moving around and starting new coins.
Yeah. So John Udire, he said that his old roommate made like 12,000 off of BitConnect. Wow. Yeah, I'm sure if you got in at the right time, yeah, you were able to make some. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just once those people start those systems, and once they cash out, they want to move into the next one. So you got to figure out these people's names and just kind of have a list of people you're not willing to work with in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, for sure. Yeah, and then everybody, I went to Anarchadelphia, and there's a lot about cryptocurrencies there. Actually, Leah Thompson, I got to meet her, and then I got to meet Yabet Matt that created Steam Monsters. He actually put me up for the night at his place in Philadelphia. He lives right outside of Philadelphia, so it was awesome. Instead of having to go find a campsite or something, he let me crash at his place. So he's an awesome dude.
Very cool.
Yeah. And then I got to meet Leah Thompson, who does she does their Steam sister show and a bunch of other onboarding stuff for Steam. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to take her workshop because it was conflicting with a different one. But got to meet up with her, and then I also met two other Steamians, 10 Pound Sterling, and I got to meet Co in real life too. So so it was really cool getting to meet all these people that I've known online, and getting to meet them in real life.
That's very cool. I watch DEF CON and other type of white hat groups, and one day it'd be cool to meet those people, but for now I'll just watch them on YouTube.
Yeah. It is interesting getting to meet people in real life, and sometimes you might have an image of those people in your head, and then you meet them in real life, and that may or may not change. Yeah, some people, but it was really exciting getting to meet everybody that I've been following for so long. So
very cool. Do you know who Andreas Antonopoulos is?
I do. I know him. Yeah.
I like to meet him. His videos are so inspiring, and he's a crypto OG. He's been around for a long time.
Yeah, he really is, and he gives out a lot of really good information too about even the fundamentals behind it, and so he gets out there on a lot of those public spheres and really does a really good job on getting that out there.
Nice.
So John U. Dyer says, who was the guy that pushed BitConnect hard? Isn't he on Steam? And then so
Carlos Mencia.
Yeah, Carlos Mencia. Yeah. There's a lot of exit scams and stuff out there in crypto. Definitely do your own research and only invest what you're willing to lose out there. So.
Yeah, and everyone makes mistakes. I've lost out to many altcoins over the years, and I continue to make mistakes and buy coins that probably if I shouldn't have bought if I thought about it a little harder. So everyone makes mistakes, though.
Absolutely. Yep. So, Yeah, go out there and do your own research when you're getting into that kind of stuff. So, so something else that you mentioned, you said something about cron jobs, and I have a cron jobs question mark here. I have no idea what you meant by that.
So cron jobs in the Linux world is a way to schedule tasks.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so like say you have a service like my IPFS server, and I need to make sure it doesn't run out of memory, because some applications, if you don't restart them every few months, they leak memory and they'll run out of memory, and there's no way to really deal with that unless you just kind of restart them. So my cron jobs automatically restart the server once a day, and I can set this using an application called PM2, which is a process management tool. Okay. And then I can just automatically at like 4 o'clock in the morning, when no one is probably going to be looking at images or watching videos, it just restarts that service automatically. And then I don't have to log in like every week and restart a service because it's taken up 85 or 90% of all the memory, when it should never take up more than 5%.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so it's just a way to kind of keep leaky applications under control, and it just manages it so I don't have to manage it, and it's an easy restart, and it's good to go. Cool. Oh man, chat's going at it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, we're not talking hand jobs here. We're talking cron jobs.
I think it's cron, C-R-O-N, cron jobs. It's a old way to just manage tasks, kind of like the scheduled tasks in Windows. It's like the equivalent of that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just started to play around with Linux for the first time when Graylin was walking me through some of that stuff. So, oh boy, that's a lot. That's quite the learning curve to start on a server like that.
Yeah, it is, and but I am somewhat familiar with it. I was around when we still had MS-DOS prompt and some of that, and then I also had to take some programming when I was in college. So I'm somewhat familiar with coding. So
I'm the opposite. I have no coding, but I have sysadmin experience, so I can kind of manage a device and infrastructure, but not write any kind of code for it.
Okay. Yeah.
You should team up. You can do that. Yeah. And I can do the other.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. That's something that I want to get better at. So, Swoop says he has got an old laptop and he wants to try Linux. I downloaded Ubuntu, and I can help you out whenever, Swoop, if you want to get a Linux thing going. It was the same for me. I had an old computer, and I uploaded Linux to it, and it pretty much brought it back to life. The only problem is that you're going to have to wipe your hard drive to upload the Linux operating system. So
not always.
Not always.
Yeah, you can sideload it. Sometimes Windows freaks out and will not boot up again. So back up your nudes before you do that on your system, Swoop. We know your butt pictures need to be backed up.
Always back up your nudes.
Yeah, but I love Ubuntu. If you ever have a laptop that's struggling and you don't want to upgrade its RAM, just install Ubuntu, because it uses way less resources than a modern Windows system uses.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it booted so quickly, and it was like I got a brand new computer. So
and it's also a little bit resistant to viruses, because no one really writes code to try to infect Unix systems. They kind of assume people know what they're doing if they're running it. Yeah, and it's nice. Mac used to be like that, but now they're writing Mac viruses, and I guess Ubuntu these days is like the best way to surf the web.
Oh, well, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's still viruses for Linux, but I mean, it's not like you're probably going to get it from a drive-by download like you could for Windows. Just clicking on something could easily get you a virus.
Right. Yeah, so
I love it. I love Ubuntu. I've been using it for 10 years now. That's how I started with all this server stuff. I started with a GUI, where you actually have a window, and you have a desktop and a browser, and you can click. And then I slowly started using the terminal to ping servers or to look at my IP address. And then I got more into, okay, now maybe I can do a headless operating system where you have only text and just a console. And that's where the learning curve got really extreme and very frustrating. But luckily, I had people's help like Graylan and TechCoder X, and even Eon Warped and a few other people have really helped me out along the way with just kind of like, hey, can you look at this config file? Does this look good to you? I can't tell. It all looks like code.
Yeah. yeah, I know. A couple of my brothers are in the whole software sphere, and one of the things that they tell me to go check out all the time is Stack Overflow. They're just like, man, just go Stack Overflow and figure out what the hell's going on, you know?
Yeah, and I'll use that a lot when I'm like when I get an error, or I get a error, it says some generic information or error code 504. I'm like, what do I do with that? So I pop it into Google, and it's usually a Stack Overflow or Stack Exchange or one of the GitHub issues, but I'm constantly searching for these errors because it almost never goes as the guide says. There's always some kind of thing that doesn't go quite like the guide said, and you want to double check it before you continue, because building on a bad foundation in Ubuntu usually doesn't end up well.
Yeah. So talking about a lot of this stuff, have you ever done any website development in the past, or working on any of that right now?
No, just admin. So like I'll take the One Love DTube's JavaScript site and I'll host it on my server, and I can look at the files and kind of understand what it's doing. But I don't write any kind of websites or any kind of code. I've stayed away from that and focused on infrastructure, endpoint devices, operating systems, and just about everything else but the code, and that includes website design.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's something that I've been playing around with a little bit, doing WordPress things and stuff like that. And
yeah, WordPress I actually really got close to trying out, because you can run a Steam payment gateway through WordPress. There's a plugin for that.
Okay.
Yeah, Grayland wrote a guide about it a while back. But you can...
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. So you basically have a forward-facing website to give the customers, and they can pay you for services in Steam.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's... Yeah, I talked about it a little while back on the show here, is that one of the things that I want to work on as a priority project is to build this prototype for a homesteader's vending machine. So... and be able to accept cryptos, and the concept is that you have maybe a series of clear boxes, and you have a Raspberry Pi computer that's set up there, and it's all solar powered, and you have a little terminal or a little screen or something that you can go send your crypto to, or PayPal, and it will unlock a servo for whatever is in box number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and be able to have that for homesteaders, because you're out on your farm, you're working, you can't always man a little trading booth or a little fruit stand or whatever, and then that way you could have whatever you have fresh that day, or if you have handmade goods that you want to sell or something like that, then they can kind of be sitting out on your property, where people could come up and either buy them in that way, or ping you to come man the booth or something like that.
I love that. That's such a cool idea. This question is building it and making sure it can stand up to the test of time out in the elements. Is once heat and elements get in electrical systems, they wreak havoc.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So yeah, this is something that I want to put out there and
cool.
Open source it so that anybody else can make it better.
That's a great idea. I like it's like a lockbox design, but with crypto, and you can, like you said, put things in it and people can pick it up. That's cool.
Heck yeah. So So yeah, I was gonna put that on my priority list. I've got about 8 million projects.
Well, I've been looking at your page. I see you got some posts put down for your security fence, and I see you got your Subaru. You got it into the camp now, so you got a car to go into town with.
Yeah. I'm a lot more mobile now. A lot more easy to pick up materials and different things. So yeah, I'm gonna ramp up. And then I talked to a buddy of mine this week about. I was gonna talk to him about buying his welder, and then he turns out that he's keeping his welder, and he's moved back into town around me because he worked for Stagecraft, and he built a lot of sets for Broadway and things like that, and he would travel around a lot, and now he's going to be more picking up jobs when he feels like it. He's kind of become like a contractor, and he'll pick up jobs when he needs to pick them up, and then otherwise he'll be in town. So, so I'll talk to him about a welding project that I want to do, and I have a Maslow CNC machine that can, using a router, it can route out any design in 2 dimensions on a piece of plywood, and so. I want to attach it to my trailer because, when I go to these events like Anarchadelphia, I'll bring the trailer with me, and I'll be able to do things like 3D printing and this Maslow CNC machine right there as a demonstration at these conferences. So
Very cool. So you have it in your compound. A CNC machine, you got to keep it out of the weather, though, right? So you keep in your trailer?
Yeah. So I would store it in the trailer when I'm not using it. I have to build it still. It's just the components right now, but yeah, I'm gonna work with my buddy to weld up a frame so that I can mount the plywood to the steel frame and have the router run off of these little motors and do all that kind of stuff.
Nice. Well, eventually you're gonna have to build some like actual shelter, not just have like a trailer, but like a building that you could actually put these big machines in.
Yeah. So my idea for that and what I'm gonna be preparing the property for, I need to clear some trees and do a little bit of earthwork, but my plan is to put in 2 of those 40-foot shipping containers.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That'll work.
And then I'll have the shipping containers. One will be a wood shop, and then one will be my maker space for 3D printing, metalwork, different, small metalwork, all that kind of stuff. So
cool. You gonna put berms up on the side to kind of make it partially underground?
I wasn't planning on that, but possibly. It's a possibility.
It'll insulate it. You don't want to completely put it underground. Those boxes aren't designed to be under pressure like that. But putting dirt on the sides can keep it a little cooler.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, good tip there. Yeah, I might try to do that. The whole thing that I'd like to do is, just really be able to have a local hacker makerspace, and then be able to teach people those skills in the community. And then that was one of the things that I presented at Anarchadelphia was to the idea of being able to do physical workshops to teach people in the community, because that's kind of a thing that I see in the voluntarist community, is that there's not enough people sharing real life skills to make them more resilient. And so that's something I think that I can bring to the community.
Yeah, we all kind of need to cross-train each other and make sure we all know how to do things that keep us all alive and sustained.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's that's kind of what I wanted to make my property is for people that are in the community, a way that people can gather and share these skills and build the networks that way too. So
I love that. Well, I need to learn to weld. I have not learned. I've never had a rig to weld on. No one's been an opportunity for me to learn yet. So if you get that set up, that's a goal right there for me.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, that's I only know MIG welding and stick welding, but yeah, it's it's a good skill. It's a really good skill to have. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially if you're like off-roading of vehicles, bringing along one of those setups can be the difference between towing your vehicle out and getting it running again.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, we got Breeze here in the audience. She knows how to weld.
Oh yeah, she has a farm, right? I remember she told us about pawpaw trees.
Yeah. Breeze has her farm mango. She does mangoes in South
Awesome.
Africa there. And so are your ears burning, Breeze? Because we're talking about you. Yeah, but she knows how to do all kinds of stuff. And then I see there's some people stepping on Subarus. Yeah, they're supposed to be lesbian vehicles.
There's some real fast Subaru, so I don't know about that.
I love that Subaru. It's got over 240,000 miles or something on it, and I think I've almost replaced everything on it. But
Nice. It's an all-wheel drive, right?
yeah, they're all-wheel drive, and you get pretty good gas mileage in comparison to my big truck. So
Yeah, it's a little four-cylinder boxer motor. They got those horizontally assigned pistons that give them that really interesting sound to their exhaust.
yeah. It's the only problem with them that I found, and the big problem is that they leak oil because of the way because they're the horizontally opposed design, and they have a tendency that they can leak oil. Now, some of the newer Subarus, I believe, have fixed that design, but on the older ones, it's a high probability that you're going to need to be constantly filling it with oil.
I've had cars like that where they said if it's not leaking oil, it's out.
Yep.
You always want to check that oil when you got a car that's leaking oil, because it might be the last little drip coming out on your floor there.
Yep. So that's how mine's a 99, and I said if this engine goes, then I'm converting it to an electric vehicle. So.
Oh, cool. Well, it looks like you can probably fit a lot of stuff in it. You can probably take it to the lumber yard and get some pretty long types of wood to fit in there if you put the seats down.
Yeah, actually, that when I first started the survival trailer project, I didn't have my truck at the time because it was in the shop, and so I was picking up all my steel with it and all that. I just strap everything to the roof and tie it down, and that's how I used to do everything. Picking up lumber and everything, I just strap it to the roof and tie it down and get where I needed to go with all my materials. So, yeah, you can't be knocking that Subaru.
No, it's a hatchback. That thing is versatile.
Yeah, for sure.
Hatchbacks are great. I love hatchbacks.
Right. Yeah, swoop. Yeah. Hey, man. If you ever get some time and you want to come out and visit, man, you're welcome. And right now it's real basic out there. So, but yeah, we can talk about that. We can talk about that for sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing all that. How many acres you got again?
It's 4.5, and I just talked to somebody through a Craigslist deal that me and my buddy Robbie connected me with this guy, but he's cutting down a bunch of trees on his property, and he was telling me recently. He said that he has a little over 5 acres, and I only have 4.5, but he said with living on a little more than 5 acres, he's able to call it farmland, and then his property taxes are like $9 a year or something like that. So
it's zoned as agricultural land.
Yeah, so I was like,
Yep.
I need to figure that out. I need to buy myself another acre or something.
Yeah. I was watching on YouTube about people suggesting what to look for when buying for properties, and they said anytime you can get agricultural zoning, you're almost unlimited in what you can do. But if you have like mixed or residential or commercial, you're really stuck on what you can do on that land.
Yeah. So, so anyway, he said, he was able to go down to the county courthouse and work that out. It was classified under maybe something different at one point in time, and then I guess he had a buddy or something go down there and help him reclassify it as agricultural land, and so his taxes went from like I can't remember what they maybe $100 a year to like 9 or something, you know.
Wow.
So it was like amazing.
Yeah, I'm going to keep that in mind when I'm looking for land. I want agricultural land as well, and I don't want to be inside city limits where there's extra regulations.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely something to think about because I mean, dang, I mean, if you can't, I really don't like the idea of property taxes at all. But if I can pay, the least amount of them as possible, then hell yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to be going up every few years as the urban expansion moves closer to your property.
Yeah. It's going to be happening. Fortunately, I think where I am, it may take a little while for that to happen, but I don't know. I live by Smith Lake, and so just being by the lake, I know that more and more people are moving to be by the lake because of that. So
you should grow some worms and sell it to the fishermen.
Yeah, that's a good idea, brother. Yeah, there's all kinds of ideas for that land, and biochar is one that I want to start getting into.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
Yep, and yeah, worms, like you're saying, I could be able to be providing live bait for all the fishermen that come down there. So that'd be a really good place because it's there's just a little RV park with a boat ramp right down the road from me. So anybody that's coming in that wants to go do that could pick up some live bait from me as well.
Yeah, and you could feed your aquaponic fish little cuttings of those worms, probably.
Yeah. So
you have a whole self-sustaining ecosystem right there. What kind of fish you got in your aquaponic system now?
Yeah, the fish are blue Nile tilapia, blue Nile tilapia.
Are those going to be the kind of fish that you can grow to eat?
Yeah, yeah, they make really good eating. Yep.
What kind of turnaround time do you get from like a juvenile to where you're going to take it out and eat it? Or whenever you buy it and then you eat it, how long do you usually keep them as a aquaponics filter before you eat them?
Well, since every single one of the previous systems I've built have had catastrophic failures, I haven't had a good opportunity to fillet up a tilapia yet. But my buddy Robbie he's been doing it for a good while now, and so what he's figured out, what the difference is in growth rate is depending on the fish food that you give him. And so recently he found this 73% protein feed that he can give his fry, which really boosts their growth quickly, from going from a fry to a juvenile fish to a mature fish. And so he's working with that right now, and he's got over a couple thousand little fry right now that he's about to transfer over to his big fish tank, and then he's got a big system. He's going big with his system, and looking like we talked about before the show. We actually are going to partner up to do some live workshops on how to build your own simple urban. It can be in an urban environment, in a small backyard or something like that, aquaponic system. So
nice. Once you have that, you could have your own little garden, and that's some really, really good fertilizer that those fish make.
It is, and it's something that I have been a big fan of for a long time, and I believe that it's going to be one of the ways that we move from industrial agriculture into a better use of water. It's a lot better use of water type of farming, and also getting us into more vertical farming and doing a lot more, producing a lot more abundance, and eliminating the having to distribute foods long distances. So
Yeah, that just takes so much life out of the thing you're transporting, and it adds, fossil fuels to the mix. So if everyone could have their own little decentralized garden, and aquaponics is a double whammy. You get fertilizer and you get protein in the end.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then if you ever have any problems where you have fish die off or anything like that, you can still use those fish as fertilizer for your soil gardening. And so, to me, it's a perfect system to get involved with when you're doing permaculture type farming and more long term farming techniques and things like that.
Yeah, I noticed you've been using the Tribe Steam Up tag. How do you get involved with them?
Yeah, that's a story. It's just I got noticed by Kenny Paltriano when I first started on Steemit, and Kenny's Conscious Kitchen. He was the guy that started the Tribe Steam Up thing here on Steemit, and then I guess he got some big steam power holders to contribute to Tribe Steam Up, and I just made a comment on one of his posts and a long while back, and I guess he manually brought me into his curation trail. And so yeah, whenever I think that there's something relevant to post about, keeping in line with the values of Tribe Steam Up, I'll add that tag, and then I've kind of I'm on their auto voting trail, and so most of my posts will get curated by that, or go into their auto voting trail there. So
that's really good.
I get some great support from there.
Yeah, building communities on Steam, it's really a way to really boost your getting noticed and to really move along in the system. But getting involved with MSP and getting involved with all the other groups like Helpy and the Alliance, and looking into things like Tribe Steam Up and a bunch of others, you could just continuously make friends and find ways to re-steam your content, and of course get more upvotes.
Yeah, and that's another beautiful thing I found with Steemit, is that it really does encourage you to become a member of the community, where you get the benefits for being in different communities and being involved in networking with other people, instead of just having your little space on the internet where it's just your blog or whatever and being cut off from other people. It's really encourages you to get involved with other people and get out there in the different communities.
It sure does. When people are using Steam but don't know about Discord, I don't feel like they're getting the whole experience that they could potentially get.
No, not at all. And I think that it is very helpful to get on these Discords and get involved in these different projects and communities, and whichever one is in alignment to what you're trying to do with your mission and being out here in the digital space, and get involved with the people that have the most interests in common with you. So
yeah, and I'm just really glad that all the communities have really taken onboarding as such a serious thing that we have to work with new users. Like we have Steam Terminal, and we have Hey, Have You Met? And a bunch of different groups that are just focused on, hey, if you're new to Steam, come by, let us teach you a few things, and it'll make your life way easier in the community. And recently I introduced someone to Steam, a long friend of mine. I've known him for decades. And he got on Steam, and he got the best welcome. He did an introduction post, and people from the community got on there and said, hey, here's some tips. Here's how they joined this Discord if you have any questions. I remember when I started Steam, and many other people, like, you wouldn't get any response on introduce yourself unless it's a bot or just someone saying, hello, welcome to Steam. But now there's entire groups trying to onboard people properly. And that's going to save so much trouble and make things so much easier for people, especially when people need to learn how to use their keys correctly. Because for a while, people were just logging in with their owner and master keys. They didn't know what active and private and posting keys are. So we're going a long way in educating people how to use the platform and really take their information and control themselves.
Absolutely. And, there's so many great people out there with their own little projects as well. I had John Doer 123 come on the show, and he does a really cool little project called Doer's Minnows, and so what he does is he uses some of his Steam power to delegate to anybody that wants to become involved in his project to help them get started on Steemit, and then he has his little community where he helps those people out, and then delegates some of his Steam power to them so that they can actually use the platform and have the what they need in as far as the resource credits, I guess, to be able to interact enough on the platform and stuff. And so and then meeting some people from Anarchadelphia, and the reason I wanted to get my own little Discord server cranked up is to be able to help onboard people through my own little Discord server, the Tinker Tribe, and help anybody out that's wanting to get started on Steemit, because I think that it's a really good way of getting your information out there. And just like we're talking about here, we have all these decentralized tools on here now that are discoverable, and so many other people that can help you learn these things too, which gets outside of the current system that we're under.
Yeah, and when I first started on Steam in like 2017, there was MSP. They were around. Helpy, I think, was just starting around then. But now you have 30, 40, 50 groups that you can get involved with. It's grown exponentially. I've just been so impressed and so glad that we've gone from like being just for techies only to like, here, join this Discord. I know it's kind of scary, but give us 5 minutes and we'll help you see the light here.
Yeah, that is the thing with where we're at right now. There is kind of it's hard for a lot of people to maybe make that connection with others now. It seems is that a lot of people are more guarded, and especially in the online space, because it is a little bit difficult to judge character and things when just getting to know somebody online. There's a lot of communication that is cut out when you don't have the personal communication and the nonverbal stuff. So
yeah, well, I think that's where these Discord radio shows are great. You get more than just text. You get a little voice and sometimes some video, depending on who streams.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's one of the first things that I found out when I got on here was getting involved in the Discords and getting to chat with people turned my experience up to a whole new level. And so I believe that these shows and the podcasts are vitally important, and it's a great place for us all to kind of gather and interact with each other. Yeah.
And it's a great way to have support. Sometimes when you're posting on Steam, you can feel quite alone if you're not getting many responses. But you can always get on Discord in a general chat and just start talking to people. And they're all friendly. Everyone wants to be there to talk with everyone else. Everyone's pretty positive. And you never feel alone. And it's a global system. So there's people from halfway around the world. If you're up at 4 o'clock in the morning, there's still people on there that you could talk with and probably have a pretty cool conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, El Gecko, thanks for joining. That's just what I found, man. It's like, and I was joking with some people at Anarchadelphia. I was like, I think I probably have more friends on Steam or online now than I do in real life.
Yeah, my follower count on Steam is multiples what I've ever had on Facebook or MySpace. I've had maybe 250 friends on MySpace and Facebook, but I have over 900 followers on Steam. I'm just amazed. I'm hoping I can break 1,000 followers before the end of the year. I'm hoping for it, but if I do, it's just so surreal because I'm not used to having a follower base.
Yeah, I know. Same with me. Yeah, same with me. It is really neat. And so, speaking of that, you say I see one of your recent posts here. You guys went on a hike, and something unique that you do is the infrared photography. And I see that you guys did a hike on the Pinhoti Trail here.
Yeah, it goes into your backyard or down south a little where you live, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you been on it, the Pinhoti Trail?
No, not yet. Yeah, so seeing these photos, it's That's one I need to go explore.
Yeah, it was one of those places where we actually didn't plan on going to the Penhoti Trail that day. My friend's vehicle, we were going up the mountain, and it was having some trouble getting up the Fort Mountain, which was our primary destination. So we had to turn around and find a whole nother spot to check out that day. And I just found it just doing a quick little Google search, and I didn't know it was a 160-mile long trail until I got back home and I looked it up on the internet. I couldn't believe like that trail crossed state lines.
Yeah. Actually, I think my buddy, his dad was part of working on that trail and getting it to connect to some of the trails in Georgia. That's pretty cool. Let me drop that in the chat here. So
checking out the trail system in Georgia and being at the foot of the Appalachians. I think I'm brave, but I don't have the cojones to spend weeks out on the AT yet.
Yeah, you know what? I first got involved with Appalachian Trail when I was like 19, and I went and volunteered on a trail crew. And if you want to learn about the trail, I highly recommend going out and volunteering to go do a trail crew. You get fed, you get a place to sleep too, and they bring you on and you help maintain the different sections of the trail. And there was one down in Virginia, the Conorock Trail Crew, and I got in and went and volunteered for that. And man, you just meet so many cool people going to do that, and it's a lot of fun. It's something I really recommend. And hey, Mike Coase and John Doer 123, thank you for joining. Your ears must have been burning, John Doer, because I was telling everybody about your Doer Meadows project. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, it's a great system. I wanted to say that after the RC concerns came up, so many people stepped up and just helped delegate steam power to get anyone over that hurdle. I did some myself for someone in Venezuela, actually 2 people in Venezuela and another user, I think in Oregon. So it's important just giving a little steam power to help those people get, enough comments and posts a day, because if you don't have steam power these days, you can't really interact on the blockchain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's something that, but it's an easy problem to fix, right? It's because we all have that ability to delegate, and so you can delegate for a little while, and then once they get up and going, then give it to the next person that needs some help.
Yeah, I love delegation. It's one of those things where I can do it worry-free. I can give it to this group and know I don't have to ask for it back. I just can revoke it at any time. And it just makes me feel so much more safe interacting with all these groups on the blockchain. Where in the past, you had to send people deposits and, pay gratitudes and all that stuff. So I love the DPoS setup of Steam, which is the delegated proof of stake that makes staking or making delegations able to do it on the blockchain. And I'm really glad that we're all taking advantage of it.
Yeah, that is one of the really cool benefits of the delegated proof of stake system. So it does make it does give you those tools so that you can kind of become a community more.
Yeah, I just love all these protocols we've come up with. First it was proof of work with Bitcoin and many altcoins, and then we had proof of stake, where you would have masternode setups. And proof of stake has some really great systems too, because you can vote on proposals. And by having stake in the altcoin, you can kind of drive a direction on different proposals and issues that they have. I know Dash does that, Smart Cash does that. A bunch of proof of stake coins, you can be part of a committee basically and vote for important issues. So DPoS, Steam on top of that, they've gone even further where people like Crimson Clad and other witnesses will actually campaign on the blockchain and get votes. This is so new and amazing that we're doing this on a decentralized system. I love the last 5 years that we've been in with all this stuff. Actually, more like 7 years now. But yeah,
right,
it's amazing.
Right, and it shows that you can have governance without having a government.
Yeah, exactly. They call it governance, masternode governance, and it's just such an amazing system where you're literally voting using your private keys. It's just such a cool system.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's a living example of how you can have a voluntarist society, in my opinion.
Yep, but the powers of bees are trying to shut it down. I heard there's people in Congress trying to make cryptocurrency illegal, and of course those Congress members are lobbyists for the Visa and MasterCard company. So, what do you know about that?
Of course they are. It's government and the media are run by organized crime, and that's all they are.
Yeah, they don't want to lose their stake in credit card transactions. Now that we have cryptocurrency getting up to the speed of those credit card companies, where Bitcoin first started, it couldn't do transactions as fast as the Visa network. But there are coins that totally can. And with the Lightning Network, it may even be able to do with Bitcoin and other legacy cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. So I think that everybody is starting to realize that, that this is, let's call it for what it is. It's organized crime. And, and so, we have some tools, we have the tools available to put those guys out of business. That's what all these guys are afraid of, is that they'll actually have to go do productive jobs instead of leeching off of everyone in society.
Yeah, I saw you got to share your banner at the Anarchadelphia, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, we this was not my banner, but it was Etienne de Boete Squared. He's also known as Howard, but he held that sign in front of Washington, D.C. for a rally, and it's the most censored sign on the internet. It's it was shown nowhere in the media or anywhere, but it's like one of the biggest signs, and it was the most censored. But yeah, we were able to, at the public park down in Philadelphia, display that for everybody in the public, and then a few of the guys actually put it up at the top of the FDR skate park skate ramp, and got a bunch of photos of that. So it was like, maybe that'll get into Thrasher magazine or something cool like that.
Nice. It's eye catching. It's only like a sentence long, but it's all it says it all right on that banner.
Yes, and that was the guy that did that. I got to hang out with him for a little bit, and he's working with the Free State Project, which is, they're going to try to amass enough people in the state of New Hampshire to get it to pretty much secede from the Union, and to enact voluntarist ideals there in New Hampshire, and pushing for that to happen. So it's going to be a gathering place for, and already several people have actually moved to the state of New Hampshire. So the idea is, instead of moving countries, that we kind of create a voluntarist society within the current operation as it is now, and then it bleeds off from there. And so he wrote a book called Understanding Our Slavery, and it's like a book kind of full of memes and things like that shows how the current system is so much related to the systems of communism and fascism, and shows you all the pictures on how all these things are interrelated. And so he worked for these Fortune 500 companies, and his real job is to enable really good visuals that bring across points. And so that's for 65% of the population are visual learners. So when you put things in memes, and if you're able to give them picture visuals of how these things are interrelated, then people can pick it up faster. And so that was a really cool thing, and he made that sign to go take around. So it was really cool.
Nice. Yeah, memes are a new way of communicating. It's like a painting. You can interpret it so many different ways. It's a lot of data in memes. People don't know that.
It is, and so one of the memes is that says, "What did you do to during this time or whatever?" And it says like making dank memes or something like that.
A memeologist.
Yeah, yeah, and it really is. It really is a powerful way to get the message out. And one of the things that this guy's doing, which I found was really cool as well, is that he created something called a pirate box, which is a little Wi-Fi connection that you can place somewhere on somebody's network, and it's its own little self-sustaining little Wi-Fi connection. So his idea is to implant one of these pirate boxes into some schools in New Hampshire. And when the kids go to connect to this Wi-Fi, they'll be able to see all these files of the Understanding Our Slavery book and, things that the government doesn't want them to see. And I thought that was a really, really cool way of doing this, spreading this information and stuff. So,
well, he needs to be careful with plugging things into other people's networks. In America, that it could be considered hacking.
Well, it's not plugging into their network. It's just hosting a Wi-Fi signal in the physical area. So it's not actually connecting to any network. It's just hosting its own little Wi-Fi network.
Okay. I thought you plugged it into like the LAN and it became its own access point or something like that. Like that would give them access to their LAN, which could be considered hacking. But if it's its own device, okay, cool.
Yeah. So it's that, and then he also wants to put a bunch of books and get a kid to host a locker with it, which has all these books and information in it. So it's like, take the red pill at this locker or something like that.
That could be interesting. We'll see how the faculty responds to that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of these different ideas out there at Anarchadelphia, and so they're just better ways to reach people, I think, because often when you confront people with these different ideas, that the cognitive dissonance turns on and people shut down from listening to you. And so to get more creative with on how to spread the message through like the memes, and one person I met was handing out postcards with links to information on the back, and then other people had the similar ideas with flyers. One guy had a picture of the depreciation of the dollar from back in the day in 1913, from when the Federal Reserve started, and how much the dollar has depreciated in a visual format, right? So people could see that and pass that around and see how much the dollar has been devalued.
Yeah, I remember as a elementary school project, I'd asked my grandma how much a stick of gum was back in the day, and I couldn't believe her. She was like, it was like 10 cents for a stick of gum, and now you won't see them for less than $2 on the shelf. What happened?
Yeah.
You know what happened. It's called quantitative easing and printing more money.
Yeah, exactly. But it is such an insidious thing. Is inflation is it's a hidden tax on you, because you're not really seeing it affect you immediately, but it's happening over time.
Yeah, it's like 2 to 3% a year, and if your wages don't rise with it, it won't do you any good.
Exactly. And so, everybody's wondering why they're having to try to, work 3 jobs to keep up, because the purchase power of the money they make is losing its value it keeps losing its value. And so
they're printing more of it. Things that are more common are worth less. It's just a simple fact.
Yep. So get out of the shitcoin dollar.
Yeah, move into a deflationary currency and not an inflationary currency. Believe in the halving.
Yeah, exactly. And so, these are some of the ideas on how to get outside of this current system and start to move in a positive direction and decentralize everything.
Yep, we're 236 days away from the Bitcoin halving.
Yeah, that's exciting times, and that we are definitely living in interesting times.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens as we approach that happening. If we go through another bear market, just my opinion, but I think that would probably be the thing that would spur it back up into a bull market. If you look on the previous happenings, it almost always has increased its value.
Yeah. So it's it's really, I think, a good opportunity right now, to, a lot of people don't understand that you don't have to buy an entire Bitcoin. You could buy
Right.
$10 here a week or whatever. Just don't risk something that you're anything that you're not willing to lose, and then you don't have to buy one whole of anything. And that's the beauty of cryptocurrency. So it's if we start using these tools, and that was actually one of the things at the beginning of Anarchadelphia, was that John McAfee did a special video presentation where he said cryptocurrency is our weapon against this system, and if we don't use it to exchange value between each other, then we've given up our best weapon against this system.
Luckily, I just think with the gravity of humans and making errors, it's kind of doing that on its own. And anytime there's like a financial crisis, people jump to Bitcoin. Anytime a war is about to start, people jump to Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't even have to do anything. As long as humans and we have black swan events, people are going to continue to go to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. Bitcoin is the honey badger of money.
It don't care.
It don't give no fucks. Yeah.
No, don't. Just keep on trucking us. And the hash rate is at all-time highs right now. I think we just broke all new highs on hash rate.
Yeah. So, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Scrub Matters. Thank you for being here. Roll Tide, though, buddy. Roll Tide, roll. Can I get a welcome to the Church of Roll Tide? Can I get a Roll Tide? Yeah, that's one of the things in Alabama is like Alabama football is like a religion here.
Yeah, I've seen it. Same Georgia Dogs in Georgia. I don't keep up with it much, but I know.
No,
people
I
are
don't either.
enthusiasts.
But it's almost like a greeting, between people. It's like whenever you say you're saying that you're having a good day, you just say Roll Tide.
At the University of Alabama, right?
Yeah. University of Alabama. I never went there. I like I said, I don't really follow football really anymore, but I like doing the greeting and saying Roll Tide. So
Yeah, the only thing I know about University of Alabama, Ole Miss, is it's the home of NIDA, which is National Institute of Drug Abuse, where they are the only place allowed to grow marijuana by the government, but they will only grow it to find negative effects and will never report the positive. And they've literally said that in like reports, like they'll throw out any positive thing they find and only report negative things.
yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So you're talking about marijuana? Is what you're talking about?
Yeah, and NIDA is a group for the National Institute of Drug Abuse. It's funded by the government, and they grow marijuana at Ole Miss, which it's Alabama. They're not supposed to be allowed to grow it, but they are the only permitted group by the feds. But they're only allowed to grow to find negative responses with it.
Yeah, isn't that funny? And so I heard recently a story about in the local news here is that the government's going to be studying the health effects of CBD, but there's not going to be any THC in it. We promise.
Well, that's kind of useless. That's kind of like Marinol trying to isolate something and expect our body to figure it out. You need the entourage effect is what they call it. There's a ton of cannabinoids that you need involved to have a therapeutic effect, and I don't think they get that.
Yeah, no. Well, they don't, because it is a medicine, and it does help. We have CBD receptors in our body. I wonder why. And so,
yeah, sure do. Enetamide. We make a cannabidol or something that's made of the same chemical structure, but It's used to control, I think, regulate part of like your body. Anatomy is what it's called, I think, when I looked it up. There's like one chemical our body makes that's a cannabinoid.
Right, and then all the other drugs that make you violent or angry, like alcohol or meth or these different ones or whatever, Well, I mean, alcohol is promoted, cigarettes, these things that, definitely alcohol that keep you at a lower consciousness level are the ones that are promoted by government and legal.
Yeah, I call them state-sanctioned drugs.
Right. Right.
Yeah, tobacco, alcohol. I don't touch any of that. I'm not, as I know it usually comes packaged with other crap in it, like all the cigarettes. Unless you roll your own, you're getting so much filler crap in there. And same with alcohol. I mean, have your car run on alcohol. Why are you putting it through your body? Burn it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's so many of these things that, really, it is about keeping people in that lower state of consciousness, and so if we can all, like I started off with, and one of the reasons why I want to begin incorporating the teachings of natural law into this show is that the knowledge that has been occulted or hidden is without having this knowledge keeps us at that low state of vibration, and it keeps us from creating a better reality, I believe. So
yeah, I think you're right. It keeps us locked into a job taking up all of our time, so we don't have time for our own creativity.
Yeah, exactly. And keep on keep on working in the rat race to just try to get by. So So yeah, for everybody that just joined, I see. Thank you guys for joining. I see Angelica 7 showed up. Thank you for joining. I see What's Up, and we got T Fame, and thank you guys for coming in. We have El Gecko, Mama Monza, Mariano, Con. Thank you guys for joining for the show today, and yeah, we're just kind of getting into all of the drugs that are approved, and then the ones that are not approved, and some of the states of consciousness, and maybe if we can raise our state of consciousness as human beings, and we can manifest a better reality. So, and you're doing, and a lot of what you're doing, Solo Miner, you're a full-time content creator now, and you've taken a lot of these personal responsibility for your own data and all these things, and you're also trying to grow a lot of your own food and living off the land for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that whole sustainability digitally and in the real world.
Yeah, and that's what it takes. It's just that taking the personal responsibility on, and even if you don't want to go as far as that, go support your local farmers market. Yes. Go support your local farmers and the guys that are trying to make a living by providing you organic food for nourishment of your body and your health. And so, even if you don't want to grow all your own food, if it's too much to do that, and that's not your cup of tea, but I would encourage you to go and support your local farmers and get to know them and get to go tour their farms or whatever.
Yeah, and by making friends of farmers, a lot of times you can get free resources. Like I get all my hay from my local farmer at the farmer's market, which I then use for growing my soilless potatoes, and going to try carrots maybe next year, and some other root vegetables. But I get all that hay for free because I made friends with them at the farmer's market.
Yeah, and I doubt there is a farmer that is not a friendly person that wants to that is not approachable, I guess,
Yeah, they usually want to talk because they're usually not talking with anyone for 16 hours a day.
Yeah, so it's a cool thing to kind of get involved and get out there. So and that's a big part of some of the workshops that I took was with Derek Brose's workshop was all about creating this counter economy and starting to grow our own food and build community garden spaces and things like that, because they really do help to build the community in your area. And then if people can see that they can be more self-reliant, and then people aren't going to be looking for the government to come rescue them in a hard time.
Yeah, and it's therapy. Growing something, our nourishing side as humans, it really fuels by growing things and having accomplishments. I feel so good growing plants from a seed or a little sprouting and then finally harvesting it. I can't explain tangibly how that feels, but it just gives me a real warm feeling in my heart. And I think people need to experience that more.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with that statement right there. Is that in any time I garden and you're taking care of those things that are growing, and it's part of the masculine and feminine part of our self, and kind of getting in touch with that nurturing feminine part of yourself too, being able to grow something. And so it kind of helps us bring ourselves into balance, I think.
Yeah, it's been hard coded in us for so long. It's like having a partner. You've been raised it's in our blood to cohabitate with other people. And it's the same thing for growing food. We've done it so long. We've only stopped doing it like 100, 200 years ago. But it's in our DNA to grow stuff. And just by doing it, it feels so natural. And I wonder why. I mean, it's epigenetic, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think there have been some studies that I know kids that go and play in the dirt and the mud have a better immune system than the kids that are raised in like a completely sterile environment. And so, when you go out there and you get your hands in the dirt and the soil, you're interacting with all these microorganisms and things like that. You're helping to get your immune system familiar with a lot of these other things that exist in our environment. And they've also seen with astronauts that have spent a lot of time on the International Space Station have had severely weakened immune systems because we are actually in communication and in symbiosis with all the microorganisms on the planet.
That makes sense. Or maybe it's all the cosmic rays hitting them all day long in space.
Yeah.
Those flashes of light they get while they sleep, it's pretty wild. I heard that cosmic rays interact with your or your visual receptors in your brain, and it causes flashes of light in astronauts' vision as they're trying to fall asleep.
Wow, yeah, I have heard that. Yeah, that would be pretty annoying.
yeah, but like you said, just being on Earth and being grounded with the Earth. I mean, there's something about being barefoot on the Earth, and there's something about us being electromagnetic beings, and the Earth has a magnetic field. And there's just something about you taking your shoes off and having your feet as part of that circuit with the Earth. It does something, and it's really therapeutic.
Yeah. So one of the other guys that I took his workshop was Clive DeCarl, and he talked a lot about that, and then he also talked about how most of us are devoid of a few key trace elements, and one of the big ones is magnesium. And he was saying that pretty much everybody is devoid of magnesium in this modern era. And if you have problems with anxiety or stress or anything like that, take magnesium. The body uses magnesium and it uses up the magnesium in response to stress. And so if you want to feel more calm and less stressed out or anxious, you should take magnesium. And so it's also critical for heart function and for the blood vessels, the lubricity of the blood vessels. And so one of the examples that he gave was, got people that are walking in the desert and sweating. They didn't die because of lack of water. They died because they lost all the magnesium out of their sweat. and it's just critical to heart function. So it's one of the ones that everybody should really take some magnesium to supplement on a daily basis.
Interesting. I'll have to. Is there like a blood test so you can check your magnesium levels, or some kind of test for that?
Well, what he did at his talk was he had vials of different trace elements, and he said so. He gave the example of animals in the wild. They'll eat different types of plants when they know they have a deficiency of something. Well, the same thing works in humans with our taste buds. So if you have a deficiency of any specific mineral or vitamin, then you can put it on your tongue. And if it tastes sweet, then you're lacking it. And then if it tastes if it tasted like water, it had no taste, then you had a deficiency in it still. But if it tasted disgusting to you, then you have enough of it. And so he passed around all these different minerals to everybody, and elements like potassium and zinc and selenium and chromium, iodine and magnesium. And everybody took a little bit on their tongue, and pretty much everybody was devoid of most of these things. And so when we live in the society now, we are highly deficient in a lot of these elements because they don't exist in our food anymore.
Yeah, and I think as people tend to eat like the same thing over and over again, they get sick because they're not eating enough variety that would contain all those nutrients and different things that you need in them. The people can get stuck on the same diet all the time, and that's why it's good to keep trying new things. Sometimes you'll learn, oh wow, I feel really good after eating that. Well, you should probably incorporate that in your diet more.
Yeah. So your body will communicate with you because those things will taste good, if you have a lack of it. And so, yeah, inertia, selenium was. I can go back into my notes and figure out what that's helpful for.
So yeah, selenium I think is in Brazil nuts. You can actually get a selenium poisoning if you ate too many Brazil nuts, but it's good for you in the right amounts.
Yep. And then another one that he talked about was if you put just a little bit of cayenne pepper into your food, that will also help with your circulation. Is another really good one that was in there.
Nice. Capsaicin is a great. It was designed to keep things from eating it, but it also has some great benefits for you.
Yeah. So one of the things he talked about as well is if you have a craving for sweets all the time, you are lacking chromium and vanadium, are two things that you lack. And so there's so many great things that I learned from that workshop, and I'll probably be sharing more of those in future shows, but I highly, like I said earlier, I suggest everybody go check out Clive DeCarle's website, and you can find that by checking out my latest post on Steemit. I wrote about that on there, and then I dropped that earlier in the show to go check him out, and just educate yourself on nutrition and these different elements to help with your health, and stay out of the doctor's office, because the doctors have really no incentive of healing you and giving you health. He said doctors only take about 4 hours of health classes or nutrition classes in their entire program.
I heard that too. It's shocking.
Yeah, and so it's they have no incentive to keep you healthy. They need you sick so you can keep coming back to their office and keep paying them. So check it out, and check out Clive DeCarle. I highly recommend it. And thanks again, Solo Miner. If you have anything to share with the last thoughts, I'll give you the last word, and then we'll wrap it up.
I just wanted to thank everyone listening in. See, there's a lot of people in the audience. Thank you so much for listening to me and making stuff talk. I hope y'all have enjoyed listening in, and I like hanging out with y'all and being part of the community. So thanks for having me making stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much, brother, and love what you got going on, and we'll stay in touch about coming out for down to the property in the future, the near future, and really a pleasure to get to talk to you today, brother.
Sounds good, making stuff. I'll get Fryu Lincoln when I got some dates lined up. I'll see what works for you, and we'll figure it out.
All right, sounds great, brother. Everybody in the audience, thank you for being here today. And love you guys. Appreciate you guys being here and hanging out for the show. And up next, we got Crimson Clad with her Steamwave Saturday, where you can learn some new stuff about what's going on the whole Steam, in the entire Steamiverse here. So I hope you guys had got some great information from the show today. And we'll be back. I'll be back next week with another great episode of Meadows and Makers podcast for you. So we'll catch you guys later. And here's Awake by Divine and Feathers.